Elvis Presley stood backstage at the Richmond Coliseum on March 18, 1975, holding a handwritten letter that had been delivered to him just 30 minutes before showtime. His hands were shaking, and tears were streaming down his face, smudging the mascara his makeup artist had carefully applied. Around him, his band members and crew were in full panic mode. 15,000 fans were already in their seats. The opening act had finished, and Elvis was supposed to be walking on stage in 10 minutes. But he couldn't move. He couldn't speak. All he could do was read the letter again, each word hitting him like a physical blow. The letter was from a 17-year-old girl named Sarah, and it contained 7 pages of the most brutally honest, heartbreaking, and perspective-shattering words anyone had ever written to him. What made it worse, or perhaps what made it so powerful, was the final sentence. "I won't be alive to see you read this, Mr. Presley, but I needed you to know that you saved my life, even though you couldn't save yours." That single line would haunt Elvis for the rest of his days and force him to confront a truth he'd been running from for years. The evening had started like any other tour stop. Elvis had arrived at the venue around 6 p.m., exhausted from the previous night's show in Charlotte. His weight had been fluctuating again, his jumpsuits were getting tighter, and the prescription medications that used to help him perform were now barely keeping him functional. But the show must go on. It always did. Joe Esposito, his road manager, had been sorting through the usual pile of fan mail when he found an envelope that stood out. It wasn't decorated with hearts or lipstick kisses like the others. It was plain white, addressed simply to Elvis Presley in careful, shaky handwriting. Inside was a thick stack of lined notebook paper, covered front and back with that same careful script. "Elvis, you might want to read this one," Joe had said quietly, handing him the envelope. There was something in Joe's voice, a heaviness, that made Elvis pay attention. Elvis took the letter to his dressing room, expecting another declaration of love or request for a personal meeting. Instead, he got something he'd never received before: complete, unfiltered truth. "Dear Mr. Presley, my name is Sarah Mitchell. I'm 17 years old, and by the time you read this, I'll be dead. I have acute lymphoblastic leukemia, and the doctors say I have maybe 2 weeks left. I'm writing this from my hospital bed in Richmond, and my mom promised she'd deliver it to you when you came to town for your concert. I know you get millions of letters, and you'll probably never read this, but I need to write it anyway, because you saved my life, Mr. Presley, and I think maybe I can save yours." Elvis's stomach tightened. Another dying fan. He'd received letters like this before, heartbreaking requests to visit hospitals, to call sick children, to provide some comfort in someone's final days. He tried to honor as many as he could, but there were so many, and he was so tired, and sometimes it felt like the whole world was dying and looking to him to make it okay.
"I've been a fan of yours since I was 8 years old. My dad had all your records, and we used to dance in the living room to Hound Dog and Jailhouse Rock. When he died in Vietnam in 1968, those records were all I had left of him. I played them until they were scratched and worn, and every time I heard your voice, I felt like my dad was still with me somehow. Music was the only thing that made sense when nothing else did." Elvis felt tears prick his eyes. He knew that feeling. Music had been his salvation too, once upon a time. "When I was diagnosed with leukemia 2 years ago, I was angry, so angry. I was 15. I should have been worrying about boys and prom and college, not chemotherapy and blood counts and whether I'd live to see 16. I stopped listening to music. I stopped doing anything except being sick and angry and scared. But my mom kept playing your records anyway. She'd put them on while I was sleeping, like maybe they'd seep into my dreams and remind me that there was still beauty in the world. And then, one night, when I was at my lowest point, when the pain was so bad I wanted to die just to make it stop, I heard If I Can Dream, really heard it. The lyrics about reaching for the sun, about believing in a better world, about not giving up hope. And I started crying because I realized that you understood. Not the cancer part, but the pain part. The part about hurting so much you can barely breathe, but still finding a reason to keep going. Elvis had to stop reading. His vision was blurring. If I Can Dream had been recorded during one of the darkest periods of his life, shortly after Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination, when Elvis was grappling with the violence and hatred in the world. He'd poured every ounce of pain and hope he had into that performance, and somehow, impossibly, it had reached this girl. He wiped his eyes and continued reading. Your music got me through 2 years of hell, Mr. Presley. Through chemotherapy that made me so sick I couldn't lift my head. Through watching my hair fall out. Through the looks people gave me when they saw how sick I was. Through losing friends who couldn't handle being around someone dying. Your voice was there when nothing else was. It reminded me that pain doesn't last forever, that beauty exists even in darkness, that it's okay to hurt as long as you don't stop feeling. But here's what I need to tell you, Mr. Presley, the thing I need you to understand before I die. You're dying too. Maybe not physically, not yet, but in every way that matters. I've seen your recent performances on TV. I've read the articles. I know about the weight gain and the medications and the canceled shows. I see a man who's in as much pain as I am, but you're still trying to perform, still trying to be Elvis Presley, even though Elvis Presley is killing you. Elvis felt like he'd been punched in the gut. This 17-year-old dying girl could see what everyone around him either couldn't see or refused to acknowledge. And I understand why you keep going, because that's what you're supposed to do, right? The show must go on. People are counting on you. You have responsibilities. But Mr. Presley, Elvis, can I call you Elvis? I'm dying, so I think I get to break the rules. Elvis, what good is saving everyone else if you can't save yourself? Your music saved my life. It gave me comfort when I had none. It gave me hope when I'd lost all of it. It reminded me what it feels like to be human. But who does that for you? Who gives you comfort? Who gives you hope? Who reminds you that you're more than just a voice, more than just a performer, more than just the person everyone needs you to be? Elvis couldn't breathe. The letter was asking questions he'd been avoiding for years, questions that terrified him because he didn't have answers. I'm not going to be at your concert tonight. I'm too sick to leave the hospital now, but I want you to know that even if you canceled every show, even if you never performed again, you'd still have given the world more than most people give in 10 lifetimes. You don't owe us more performances. You don't owe us more songs. You don't owe us anything except the truth. And the truth is, you're human. You're allowed to hurt. You're allowed to be tired. You're allowed to need help. You're allowed to stop. I'm stopping because I don't have a choice, but you do. And I'm begging you, not as a fan, but as one suffering person to another. Please choose to save yourself, because the world needs you alive more than it needs you performing.
I won't be alive to see you read this, Mr. Presley. But I needed you to know that you saved my life, even though you couldn't save yours. And maybe this letter can save yours the way your music saved mine. Thank you for every song. Thank you for every performance. Thank you for sharing your pain with the world so that people like me didn't feel so alone in ours. But most of all, thank you for being human, for being real, for being more than just Elvis Presley. Please take care of yourself. Please remember that you matter beyond what you can do for other people. Please remember that the boy who sang "That's All Right" in a small Memphis studio deserves peace just as much as the king of rock and roll deserves applause. With love and gratitude, Sarah Mitchell. P.S. My mom will try to give you my address so you can visit or call.
Please don't feel obligated. I'm writing this to help you, not to ask for anything. But if you do have time, there's a little boy named Marcus, 3 rooms down from me, who's 7 years old and loves Hound Dog almost as much as I loved my dad. He doesn't know he's dying yet. Maybe you could sing to him. Maybe you could remind him what joy sounds like. Only if you can. Only if you're strong enough. Because I know now that being strong enough to help others means being strong enough to help yourself first. Elvis sat in his dressing room, the letter trembling in his hands. Outside, he could hear the crowd chanting his name. The stage manager was probably having a heart attack. The band was wondering what the hell was going on. But Elvis couldn't move. Because Sarah was right. About everything. He was dying. Maybe not from leukemia, but from the crushing weight of being Elvis Presley. From the medications that kept him performing but slowly destroyed his body. From the isolation of being so famous that no one saw him as human anymore. From the exhaustion of trying to save everyone else while drowning himself. There was a knock on the door. "Elvis, we need you on stage, now." Elvis looked at the letter, then at his reflection in the mirror. The jumpsuit was tight. His face was puffy from the medications. His eyes looked hollow. When had he stopped recognizing himself? "Tell them to wait," Elvis said quietly. "Elvis, we can't." "I said tell them to wait." His voice cracked with emotion. Silence, then footsteps retreating. Elvis picked up the phone in his dressing room and dialed the operator. "I need you to connect me to Richmond Memorial Hospital, patient Sarah Mitchell." It took 5 minutes to get through to the right floor. When the nurse answered, Elvis's voice was thick with tears. "This is Elvis Presley. I understand you have a patient named Sarah Mitchell. I'd like to speak with her, if possible." A long pause. "Mr. Presley, I'm so sorry. Sarah passed away this morning. Her mother was here. She's the one who delivered the letter like Sarah asked." Elvis felt like the floor had dropped out from under him. "Is her mother still there?" "Yes, she's in the waiting room. Would you like to speak with her?" "Please." Another wait. Then a tired, grief-stricken voice. "Hello? Mrs. Mitchell, this is Elvis Presley. I just read Sarah's letter. I'm so sorry for your loss. Your daughter, she was... I don't have words." Mrs. Mitchell was crying. "She loved you so much. You got her through so much pain. I just wanted you to know that you mattered to her, that your music gave her comfort when nothing else could."
"She gave me something, too," Elvis said, tears streaming down his face. "She gave me the truth, and I need to honor that. There's a little boy she mentioned, Marcus. Is he still there?" "Yes, he's in room 412. I'm coming to the hospital right now. I'm going to sing to him like Sarah wanted. But I need you to know something. I'm canceling tonight's show. I'm going to tell my people that I need help, that I can't keep doing this. Sarah was right. I've been dying, and I didn't even realize it. She saved my life by telling me the truth." Mrs. Mitchell sobbed. "She would be so happy to hear that, Mr. Presley. So happy." Elvis hung up and walked out of the dressing room. Joe Esposito was waiting in the hallway, looking panicked. "Elvis, what's going on? The crowd is getting restless." "Cancel the show," Elvis said. "What? Elvis, we can't—" "Cancel it. Offer refunds. I don't care. I need to go to Richmond Memorial Hospital right now." "Are you sick? Should I call Dr. Nick?" Elvis shook his head. "I'm not sick, Joe. Or maybe I am. Maybe I've been sick for a long time and just didn't want to admit it. But a 17-year-old girl just died, and before she did, she wrote me a letter that said things I needed to hear. And now I'm going to honor her last wish.
There's a little boy in that hospital who doesn't know he's dying, and I'm going to sing to him, because that's something I can do, something that matters. Not because I'm Elvis Presley the performer, but because I'm Elvis Presley the human being." Joe stared at him. "Are you sure about this?" "I've never been more sure of anything." An hour later, Elvis walked into room 412 at Richmond Memorial Hospital. No entourage, no photographers, no fanfare. Just him and his guitar, and a 7-year-old boy named Marcus, who looked up with wide eyes and whispered, "Are you really him?" "Yeah, buddy," Elvis said softly, sitting down beside the bed. "I'm really him. And a friend of mine named Sarah told me you like Hound Dog. Want to hear it?" Marcus nodded, too stunned to speak. Elvis played. Not the polished performance version, but the simple, joyful version, the way he used to play in Memphis before the world decided who he should be. And for those few minutes in that quiet hospital room, Elvis wasn't the king of rock and roll. He was just a man with a guitar, sharing music with a sick little boy who needed to remember what joy sounded like. When he finished, Marcus was smiling, really smiling, for the first time in weeks, according to the nurse who watched from the doorway with tears streaming down her face. "Will you come back?" Marcus asked. "If I can," Elvis promised, "if I'm strong enough." Because Sarah had taught him that being strong enough to help others meant being strong enough to help yourself first. Elvis didn't magically recover after that night. He didn't suddenly lose weight or quit all medications or fix his life. But he did start being honest with his doctors, with his friends, with himself about how much he was hurting. He did start saying no to shows when his body couldn't handle them. He did prioritize his health over his obligations. And every time he performed after that, he thought about Sarah Mitchell, about her letter, about her reminder that he was human first and a performer second, that his worth wasn't measured by how many people he could entertain, but by how authentic he could be. The letter stayed with him, folded carefully in his wallet, until the day he died, a reminder from a dying 17-year-old girl who saw him more clearly than anyone else ever had. She'd saved his life by telling him the truth, and even though he couldn't save hers, he tried his best to honor her final wish, to save himself.